It's Bengals, it's Steelers, it's Thursday night football. A must-win for the Bengals, and the Steelers, well, they could deliver a knockout blow in the AFC North. Let's get into it on a special crossover ahead of Thursday night football.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to the Locked On Bengals and Locked On Steelers crossover, a primetime crossover. Chris, Carter, James Rapien with you. Plenty to dive into, and this crossover is brought to you by Prize Picks. And download the Prize Picks app today. Use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Chris, this to me, it doesn't get much bigger on both ends of the spectrum here, because the Bengals are clinging to some hopes that Joe Flacco is going to keep them afloat, and the Steelers, well, their 41-year-olds got them more than afloat, has them in first place. What's the biggest story right now in your neck of the woods here with Pittsburgh at 4-1?
Well, the recent update would be that, particularly just for this game, Deshaun Elliott, safety for the starting strong safety for the Steelers, did not travel with the team Wednesday, and is questionable with a personal designation, telling you there's some personal issue going on. We know that he did not practice as well, so there's a questionable tag there. That's a little bit of a concern, because Deshaun Elliott's a big part of the secondary. He missed their second and third games due to injury. And then when he returned with against the Vikings, was a huge part of the defense. So you certainly hope everything's okay there and it's nothing serious. But right now, you mentioned it as being a big game for the Bengals. This is also a big game for the Steelers, because even though if they lose this game, they're 4-2 and they're still atop the division. Really, the whole idea is that the Steelers last year, they were 10-3. They were right in the cusp of, they were in the mix for winning the division, and then they fell off a cliff. And right now, I think there's just a sense that, hey, we want to put our foot on the necks of the Ravens and the rest of the division as much as possible while we have the chance to, because the Ravens had played a lot of their tough games. They played the Chiefs, they played the Lions, they played the Bills. The Steelers got both the Lions and the Bills coming up still. They still have to play the Packers. They still have to play the Ravens both times. They have to play the Browns in Cleveland, where they haven't won since 2021. So there's a lot of games on their schedule still that aren't chalk those up as wins types of games, even if the Steelers keep moving on an upward trajectory the way they have the last few weeks. So I think the thing is, while the Bengals are trying to stay in it, the Steelers are trying to maintain their momentum, because if they win on Thursday tonight, they advance to 5-1. The Ravens will be 1-5. The Ravens are their most foreseeable competition. Well, only team with really a quarterback right now, when you look at the rest of the AFC North. And that would give them a fair cushion to push the Ravens to say, hey, you either need to sweep us and you lose a couple of games, or you need to, or if we beat you one time, you're basically going to need to win outside of your games to have a real shot at winning the division.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting to me is, from a Bengals perspective, and I said this before the Green Bay game, they acquired Joe Flacco. You kind of look at things, especially with the short week. It's all right, 2 games, 4 days, 5 days, really, if you count travel, all those things. It's which game's more important. And even before the Packers game, I'm you got to get Thursday night. Probably losing in Green Bay at Lambeau 5 days after Joe Flacco gets traded for, all those things. We have to win this game. And so the Bengals, they better come out with urgency. They better come out kitchen sink style, throwing everything they can at the Steelers. And yet on the other side of it, if you can go up 4 games on the Ravens, if you're the Steelers and you can go to 5-1, and the Ravens are on their bye at 1-5, beat up, battered. I mean, you couldn't have drawn up from a standings perspective a better scenario through 6 weeks for the Steelers, and they're right there. So I totally get their mindset, and that being the mindset and that being the theme this week. The Bengals have to counteract that from the jump, and they have to, if there's any hope of them staying afloat without Joe Burrow, any hope of them picking up the pieces and making this work with Joe Flacco and being not just a team that can now move the ball a little bit on offense, but a competitive team that's going to win games, this is a game you have to win. Division opponent, a Steelers team that's playing well thus far, But if you do win and you get to 3-4 and you move to 2-0 in the AFC North, you have another matchup with Pittsburgh a month from Thursday. Like, there's all these reasons why you could convince yourself you're still very much in it.
Yep.
If you lose, you fall to 2-5, and it's really unrealistic to feel that way. So it's wild how opposite sides of the spectrum are still leading to the same thing, which should be desperation and desire to get a win, because it would be huge for both teams.
It would be. It's still, I mean, AFC North football is still big, even when there's as many injuries in this division as there are. Lamar Jackson, still isn't back. Joe Burrow basically done for the year. There's and all the other injuries that have hit up on these teams. But still, like you said, like these are big games, because the AFC. I think it's not just the AFC North that's open. It really looks like the entire AFC is open right now. The Bills are not the unstoppable Bills that they were, that they looked like they could be this year. They're 4-2 coming off of 2 straight losses. The Patriots actually are technically in first place in the AFC East right now. The Colts are the team atop the AFC with a 5-1 record. The Chiefs are 3-3. Like, there is a door that is open right now where if you can be the team that gets hot and this is just your year, maybe you can make something. Maybe it's finally like Joe Burrow and Tom Brady are the only AFC quarterbacks that can say that they've beaten Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, which is insane to say because he's been in the playoffs for like 9 or however many years he's been in the league. It's ridiculous. Yes. So yeah. I'm right with you. Like there is a sense of urgency on both sides of these teams, whereas the Bengals are trying to win to stay in it. The Steelers are trying to get ahead because they know, hey, this is our chance to get up and try to get into the mix with all these top teams when there's no clear superstar juggernaut team in the AFC total right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like if the Steelers, if they continue to win games, at some point you just have to put them there, right? And so that's what they're trying to do, regardless of how it is or how it looks or, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers or there's that. The record is your record.
Yep.
And so it, to me, from my view from here in Cincinnati, it's been pretty drama free. It's been about football and it's working out. They're playing at a really high level, and we could get into the matchups coming up in a bit. But for this Bengals team, I know their mindset. And there's a lot of people locked on Bengals watchers and listeners right now that are like, just tank. Just tank. They didn't like the Flacco deal, even though clearly Mike Tomlin didn't like it either. Why? Because it makes the Bengals better. He was right. Like Mike Tomlin was right. I don't blame him for feeling that way. Mm-hmm. It clearly makes the Bengals better and gives them a chance. Now, the Bengals have to take advantage of that chance. And this offense needs to find a way. They've been outscored, Chris, 79-9 in the first half of their last 4 games.
Jeez.
It's unbelievable. Think about that. So you're basically 20-3. Less than that, 20-2.5.
That's nuts.
On average at halftime. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. So can Joe Flacco in this offense get going early against the Steelers? That's a huge, huge factor when it comes to who's going to win the game on Thursday night.
I think so too, and that's something we'll talk about the next segment. Is starts getting go early, even though it's Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is not a bum. Like he's. You could say he's chopped. You could say he's washed. You could use all the terminologies for older players in the NFL, but he still knows how to read a defense, sling a football, and get it to playmakers. And the Bengals got the best 1-2 punch at wide receiver in football. So that's a heck of a person to have in a pinch, is a guy who can just get the ball out, read a defense, and especially throw a deep ball to give one of those 2 superstars a chance to make a play. And to me, that's going to be a big story in this game.
No doubt about it. It's one of the many, many matchups we'll get to coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is, going to fix your wireless problems. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. Because at Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless now for just $15 a month with Mint. Mint makes it simple. All plans comes with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone, keep your same number, keep your same contacts. Are you ready to say yes to saying no? You can right now by making the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Today's show is also brought to you by Built. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. And that's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels, airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and so much more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. Turn rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. Whether you're grabbing food at a local restaurant, heading to the gym, you can be earning rewards all the time. Again, that's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL, joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure you use the link so they know we sent you. All right, Chris. All right, Chris, let's dive into what is a game of many matchups. Every single one of these AFC North games is exactly that. First things first, let's talk about the Bengals offense versus this Steelers defense, because I mentioned it. They've had their struggles. Now they have Joe Flacco in the mix. He's thrown it around a little bit. You asked Mike Tomlin earlier this week about the Flacco trade, and he's like, I can't believe the Browns were that stupid. And I agree. And he didn't say it exactly like that, but he probably wanted to. It made no sense. It made no sense.
Made no sense.
But it has given, I will tell you this. No one would think in town that the Bengals would beat the Steelers with Jake Browning at quarterback. Like, no one. He stunk against them in the past. He was awful this year, even when he was good a couple of years ago. And I say good in quotes. He was really bad against Pittsburgh twice. Like, no one would expect him to be competitive in this game. And so now Joe Flacco went up against them last year, came in on relief. It was the Colts. It's 27-24. Like, he's familiar with Mike Tomlin. He's familiar with this defense. Going up against them. I think there's some hope. And to me, this is the matchup of the game. Can this Steelers defensive front get after Joe Flacco and make him uncomfortable? Or is he going to be able to get the ball to the Bengals playmakers?
I think that's definitely part of the thing here. And I actually did a film study on this for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette as far as the Steelers defense, despite having the same defensive coordinator in Terrell Austin as they have had the past 3 years, they are very different. They are blitzing at the second highest rate in the NFL. They're back to being one of the top sack producers in the NFL. They hadn't really been the last 3 years with Terrell Austin, who specialized more in saying, hey, we're going to send these four-man blitzes or four-man front rushes, and then we're going to disguise a lot of things in the back end and try to fool you and let Minkah Fitzpatrick be the playmaker. But as people know, in the offseason, they traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick. They brought in Jalen Ramsey, and they've been playing a lot more press, a lot more bump and run, and they've been a lot more aggressive with the blitz. Lots more Patrick Queen blitzes, in this defense. A lot more Peyton Wilson blitzes. A lot more stunts and twists where guys are coming off. And Jalen Ramsey getting involved in the blitz game. He had 2 sacks last week on Dylan Gabriel. This is an aggressive Steelers defense that is going to attempt to test Joe Flacco's ability to recognize where they're coming from, as well as test the Bengals offensive line to see if they can pick it up. Because, right now, when I look at protecting the quarterback, the Steelers right now, they have a second highest sack percentage, second highest sacks per game rate. The Bengals rank 21st in both of those in the NFL right now. So that's one way to make it so that it's not about Joe Flacco hitting Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Even though the Steelers feel confident, I think that you're going to see a lot of Joey Porter probably match up with T. Higgins. You're probably going to see Darius Slay team up with the deep safeties to try to take away and limit Jamar Chase. But I think a big part of that is they want to make it so it's not even about those guys. They want to get after the quarterback, cause some problems there, and make that the place where the game is more about, because that plays more to the Steelers' advantage.
No doubt about it. It does. And if they lose there, well, then that's a huge. It would be like the Bengals wide receivers losing. They can't lose. Jamar Chase can't lose against Slay, and T. Higgins can't lose against Joey Porter Jr. That's just something the Bengals need.
Right.
And so, yeah, one thing that's interesting, and on the short week, it's been more difficult on the fly to get this info. But last week, Dalton Risner for the Bengals at left guard was pretty solid in pass protection. And now it feels like Dylan Fairchild is going to be active and be healthy the rookie, and he started every game, got hurt, didn't play last week. So does he start at left guard and have to deal with those guys? I assume they're going to go back to the rookie. Certainly something worth paying attention to. Also, Lucas Patrick, as we record this, he's still on injured reserve. I do think they activate him. And so he's another veteran interior lineman that was playing right guard. And then it went to Reisner, and then it went to rookie Jalen Rivers. So they've been starting Rivers and Fairchild, 2 rookies, 3rd and 5th round rookies. Do you do that with your season on the line on Thursday Night Football? Like, I think that's such a huge matchup, regardless of who's out there,
right?
Because the Bengals need to hold up. They need to be competent running the football. And then more importantly, they need to give Joe Flacco just enough time to get the ball to his playmakers.
I agree. It's a big part of it. I wanted to ask you this, James, because I took my precursory watch of the game to try to get a sense of how Joe Flacco played in his first game with the Bengals. But I noticed that off that first half, they were figuring some things out. But that second half, they had 4 possessions, 2 touchdowns, a field goal, and a missed field goal. So they got in scoring range each time. Joe Flacco's passing numbers in the first half: 8 of 15 for 40 yards, meh. But in the second half, 21 of 30 for 179, 2 touchdowns, and still didn't throw an interception. Should I be reading into that he really started to click, or the things started to happen, or was that more circumstantial? Oh, hey, the Packers were backing off in this situation or something?
No, I think the first one, because coming out of the half, the Packers are only up 10-0, and Flacco leads them on a 17-play, 78-yard drive that ends in a 4th down touchdown pass to Tanner Hudson, who's in concussion protocol. I don't think he's going to play, so that's something to pay attention to. But they did find something. And I think that's what's interesting is the Bengals offensive line found a way to pass protect in that second half and gave Flacco just enough time to get the ball out. And he was seeing it very well and throwing with anticipation. And it was a lot of intermediate throws, not a lot of deep balls. We know he's got the arm to do that. His longest completion was 19 yards, 1 to Jamar Chase for 19, 1 to T. Higgins for 19. But yeah, there was something there. And I think that's what gives me some confidence that this offense can operate against the Steelers. Because if they had that second half and played the second half like they did the first half against Green Bay, I wouldn't have confidence. And to me, it is similar matchups where the Green Bay wins with their front and the Steelers certainly want to win with their front. And so can that translate? I'm not sure, but I do think that Joe Flacco found something there. And that's where a lot of the belief comes in. At the same time, when Flacco got it going, this Bengals defense let them down. They could not get a stop. They could not get a stop in the second half, Chris. And that's where I look at this Steelers offense and I look at this Bengals defense, and it's like, all right, well, let's just say the Bengals do get the better of the Steelers defense enough on Thursday night. Will the defense be able to get the better of Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf and Jalen Warren in these guys that have really, to me, been pretty steady? I'm not saying world beaters, but they've been steady throughout the season.
They have been steady. And I think that's been the thing the Steelers have really been missing in offense for the past several years, has just been steady presence on offense. Aaron Rodgers isn't doing anything spectacular, but what he is doing, he's taking what's there. He's reading pre-snap. He's saying, hey, they're going to be there. We're going to go here. And more often times than not, he is getting it right. He's understanding where to attack, and it's really helping the Steelers right now. I mean, again, like you look at the Steelers offense, they rank 14th in points scored. You know, if you had told me at the beginning of the season, I'd be like, hey, something's going right, because they have normally ranked in the low 20s or the high 20s, if you look at that. But, and then you look at the way that they've been able to convert. I also say the offensive line is taking steps forward. We've covered that on Locked On Steelers. Each week, I'd say for the last 3 weeks, there's been a considerable steps taken forward. And now you have an offense that largely the efficiency numbers don't look great. Like, their total yards per game, they rank 29th, passing yards per game, 24th, rushing yards per game, 29th, rushing yards per carry, 30th. So like all in the bottom of the league. But then when you look at the other numbers, when you look at how they have the third best third and short percentage as far as conversion rate there. If they can get you to 3rd and 3 or shorter, they're moving the sticks pretty at a pretty high rate. Red zone possessions, they're 6th in the NFL right now. They're able to, when they get it in there, they're doing well. They also protect the football. They average just 0.6 turnovers per game. That's 5th best in the NFL right now. They have done a good job overall as far as limiting the area while they're figuring all these other things out, while they're trying to figure out how the run game will consistently work, they're doing these other things to make things happen. And I think what you're starting to see, though, is you saw even more with the Browns against their defense, which was the number one rushing defense. You saw them start to really find their rhythm. And I think a big part of it are these jumbo packages that they're using, James. And that's going to be something that the Bengals have to be ready for. The Steelers are going to use a lot of personnel packages where they bring in that extra tackle, Spencer Anderson. He'll come out on the field. They'll say, the number 79 is an eligible receiver. And then they'll throw out Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington has been getting more snaps in games than Pat Freiermuth, which is nuts when you think about it going into here. But it makes sense when you watch him play, because against the Vikings, he crushed Dallas Turner. He was just taking guys off the ball. He was running. The Steelers loved running with him. And what did they do? The first play against the Browns, play action, Darnell Washington leaks up the field, and he gets 32 yards easily because the Browns were so committed to, Darnell Washington's there. It's a run. We got to stuff him, and they completely forgot about him. The Bengals, if the defense of the Bengals is going to hold things in check, they have to not let the size and the strength of the Steelers bully them off the ball and force them into tough spots, because that is what the Steelers want to get you to do. And then all of a sudden, you're either heavy committing to the run and leaving the pass wide open, or you don't know what you want to commit to, and the Steelers do what they want to do.
Darnell Washington, a previous draft crush, I would say. He was available in the third round, and he ends up with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We will get to what each team needs to do to get a victory. It's a huge game, and we will dive into that coming up next. This Crossover Wednesday is also brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move, like Darnell Washington, for example. He can move well, but he can block well, and he blocks like a left tackle. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety picks and awards than anyone else. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every single model. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And look, most of us are probably in the Midwest. It's Pittsburgh, it's Cincinnati. So dealing with snow, no problem with Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you move and you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Chris, let's get to what the Steelers have to do to get a win, to get to 5-1, to get Aaron Rodgers on set afterward at Paycor Stadium on that prime broadcast, Thursday Night Football. They're interviewing somebody. I would imagine it would be Aaron Rodgers if the Steelers are able to get their 5th win of the season. What do they need to do to make that happen?
They need to come out and play their style of football when it comes to the trenches. And I know that's very much what the Steelers normally try to do against a team like the Bengals that has the talent they have at wide receiver. But that's what they have to do here. They have to be able to stuff the run. Don't let Chase Brown get things going. And I think one thing that's going to be different this year, and the Steelers have made it clear since they made these moves in the offseason, they are much more confident in letting their corners hang in man coverage, at least for the first 4 seconds of a play. And you're seeing that work. And again, I did a film study if you want to see my breakdown of how it's helping in their all 22. But they are trusting their corners to say, hey, you're gonna stick this guy at the line of scrimmage. You're gonna ride him for a few seconds, but trust that the pass rush is going to get home because that's what this team is built upon, and it's really helping things right now. You're seeing like T.J. Watt isn't even the leading sack man for the Steelers right now. It's Nick Herbig, their third-year guy out of Wisconsin. He's been playing very well. Derrick Harmon has 2 sacks. Their rookie out of Oregon.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that.
It's just, I'm telling you, man, they're putting it together up front early. In the first few games, Derrick Harmon was missing, Alex Highsmith was hurt, but now they're healthier, they're figuring things out. And even Patrick Queen, who was struggling, I think, a little bit at the start of the year to be in the right place at the right time, he's flying all over the place. The confidence is there. If they can make it about that, that's where the Steelers can find a way to get a win in this game. And I think that's where the Steelers have to look at the chances here with the Bengals, is they have to look at say, hey, if we control, make them play in our style of football, we can win this game. But if this game becomes about Joe Flacco being able to either hit Chase or Higgins on the deep ball several times, or get them going in the game, or even just get lots of defensive pass interference penalties, which we know, I think it was last year, Joey Porter had 5 defensive penalties called on them in a single game. That's what can kill you if you're the Steelers, if you keep giving them chances to make plays.
Yeah, I think a couple of interesting things there. One, the Steelers' defensive front is so layered, and they have so many guys. Like, I know Keanu Benton is someone that Bengals personnel, they're like, man, that dude is just so good. Like when they like, and then it's Herbig, and then it's Harmon, who we talked a lot about on Locked On Bengals pre-draft, and it was someone that we thought if he was there at 17 would have been considered. And, there's so many guys like that they have just in the trenches. I mean, I just named all these guys, and you did.
Mm-hmm.
TJ Watt is still TJ Watt, right? So that's the key, is this Bengals team. You cannot, at the end of the game, if you're the Bengals, say, oh man, the Steelers were so much more physical than us. Like, if that happens, the game is over.
Right.
Because that's playing right into the Steelers' hand. If it's close, let's say it's 55-45 Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you can get by with that from a physicality standpoint. So you need to match. Coaches always say we need to match their physicality. Well, sure. But one team is going to have the edge a little bit over the other. If it's close there, I think it gives the Bengals a chance. I mentioned it earlier. They have to start fast. And that's super cliche, but like, they've been so bad in the first half. Like, it's almost not a cliche now. It's like a must do thing, because they're just constantly trailing and playing behind the eight ball. They had one lead, I think, in the first half of the Jake Browning / now Joe Flacco era. And it was 3-0 in Denver when they probably should have went for it for the touchdown on Monday Night Football on their first possession. They settled for a 22-yard field goal, and it felt like a win for Denver. So that's a huge key. I think we've talked a lot about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Mm-hmm. Mike Gesicki's out. He was put on injured reserve. Mm-hmm. He's dealing with a pectoral injury he suffered the other day. The other weapons, Andre Yosevach had some drops the other day. That can't happen. Noah Fant has to be a big part of what they do on offense. Chase Brown, same thing, whether it's catching passes, whether it's running between the tackles, whether it's a pitch to the outside, whatever it is, they need to get some of these other guys involved, because the Steelers are going to do everything they can to try to stop Jamar Chase and everything they can to try to contain T. Higgins and make someone else beat them. And so that's a huge factor. And then quickly on defense, one, you can't let the Steelers run the ball, and they let the Packers run the ball last week. If you do that, it's going to be really tough. So make sure the run doesn't beat you. And then when you're in 3rd and long, cause some chaos, get some tackles for loss, get some plays like that. So they're not in the 3rd and short scenarios where Aaron Rodgers just can kind of be a 41-year-old quarterback where he's seen everything there is to see and diagnose it and make the right read. It's a tall task. I think the Steelers, they haven't. I'm not sure they've wowed anyone, or no one's picking them to win the AFC right now or anything. But I just think they're pretty complete, and they're well coached, and it's going to be a tough game.
And they're finding their rhythm. Like the Steelers came into this game into the season wanting to be a more physical team. They wanted to see the offensive line take steps forward. They wanted to see the defense take steps forward. They wanted the defense to be more aggressive. And in the first couple of weeks, there was a lot of questions, because they barely squeaked by the Jets, which still, it's insane when you look back at and see like how many touchdowns they actually threw in that game. And then you lose to the Seahawks in, some improbable fashion of the things that you do there. But then you start to clean things up week by week, and you see the O-line slowly getting better, and you see the D-line getting better, and the run defense is picking up, and then the pass rush is starting to get active. Like, that's where I think that the Steelers are building to get back to being pretty consistent in doing that in all phases. And if the Steelers, like you said, starting fast is huge, because the Steelers, that's when they started racking up their sacks on Dylan Gabriel, was when they got the Browns down big and they had to commit to passing downfield and force them to look. That's where bad things started to happen. And if the Steelers defensive front is able to beat up on the Bengals offensive line, Joe Flacco is going to need to get the ball out quickly and know where to get the ball out quickly, because the Steelers, even though they're blitzing more, they still have a lot of aggressive coverage packages as well, trying to get you to make mistakes. I think that's going to be a big thing to watch this week, is can the Bengals get going early to neutralize that factor and force the Steelers to kind of have to play guessing games for most of the contest.
Another thing here, injury-wise, we're recording this right before the injury report, game status report comes out. Trey Hendrickson, his status, I would say he's in doubt. Wouldn't completely rule it out, but by the time you listen to this or watch this, he may be ruled out for Thursday Night Football. Don't count it out. He may also play. I think it's tough to predict with Trey because he's really tough, and I think he's going to do everything he can to play, but he just might not be able to on a short week. Shamar Stewart will play, and they need him, regardless of Trey's status, to create some chaos. And they don't have many havoc creators, chaos creators on defense right now. That's one guy that needs to be that, whether it's against the run or in pass rush situations. So it's a tough ask, Chris, but I think this is going to be, I do think it's going to be a close game because both teams have a ton on the line, and I'm excited to watch it.
I'm excited too. This is going to be really interesting. I've been saying all week and really all year since the schedule release that divisional road AFC North game on Thursday night. That's the curse that Mike Tomlin has never broken. But could the unstoppable force meet the immovable object? The Steelers typically are pretty good in primetime against the Bengals. Aaron Rodgers also pretty good on Thursday night football. Can those factors offset something the Steelers have not been able to do? Granted, they've also never played. It's crazy. I looked this up, James. The Steelers have never played the Bengals on Thursday night football in Cincinnati. This is the first time. They've only even played, I think, once in Pittsburgh on Thursday night football, which is kind of weird when you look back in all the long history that these teams have together since that became a thing in 2006. But to me, that's a big thing here is they got to slay that dragon.
Yeah, will the Bengals keep their season alive, or will the Steelers say, hey, we're going to take the North? Regardless, we're going to have you covered on Locked On Steelers, Locked On Bengals. So make sure you check us out, and we'll talk to you after the game. For Chris Carter, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching and listening to a special Locked On crossover, Locked On Bengals, Locked On Steelers.